Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today we're going to be doing LMIAY. It is the first Monday of the month. You all better be ready because you got a whole week into October, considering it is the first Monday of the month is the 7th. So now we are going to go over what you guys did with the challenge that I gave you last month. The challenge of the next month of November is currently up. If you're expecting it to be about Thanksgiving, about giving back, well, you're not wrong about that one, but it may surprise you. I hope you have fun with it. However, before we get started in your guys' Genius of October, a couple of things. Number one, if you enjoy what I do here, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. Obviously, just referenced LMIAY, the reason we are here today. It is down there. You can also see the other way to be featured, which is the fresh meat feature. If you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out, if you submit the first chapter, that chapter will be read here on the channel to hopefully help more readers find your work. I may be your reader, I may not be your reader. I do love to get to see what a bunch of my contemporary artists and writers at this time are working on. And it has definitely been an interesting experience just to see kind of the mindset, the trends, it covers, the stories, the variation. That's, I think, my favorite thing, is getting to see what everybody is working on that submits, and just to kind of get a pulse on what people are creating. The third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books, including the local library upon request. My newest novel, Body More Zero, is coming out at the end of this month. You can currently get an arc of it at NetGalley or Book Sirens. It is a book I am most proud of so far. I hope you enjoy it if you do check it out. With that said, let's jump. If you don't check it out, I won't be offended. Don't worry about it. I know that I am a niche writer, but I love what I do. With that said, let's jump into the story. The first story is by Mae Tanner. Omak watched as the guards came to a stop beside the trade carts. The squad leader pulled her horse to a stop beside them and leaned down to speak. "We've brought a wagon to haul your carts." She motioned for the wagon to be brought forward. The guards assisted them in packing the contents of the carts in the wagon, then broke the cart down to load them on top of the load. Omak and the woman climbed onto the wagon as a guard led a horse to Tan. Mziza frowned as they traveled southwest. "Ain't we gonna tourist?" The wagon driver nodded. "That's right," she pointed east. "Ain't tourists that way?" "Oh, we're taking a transport. It'll get us there faster. The docks are that way." He pointed straight ahead. They reached the docks in less than half an hour, and the squad leader struck a gong. Mziza stared around. "This is a dead slum." The driver glanced at her. "It ain't a slum. It's a transport dock. Look." He pointed at where the air shimmered as they watched. An elongated bulbous object took form. Mziza gasped. "The ghost bubble." The man shook his head. "It's magic, not ghosts." "That's the transport. It'll take us to tourist." Mziza hugged Dika. "Ghost bubble's full of bones and got glass boxes trap folks' souls." Dika burst into tears. "I don't want to go in ghost bubble." Anava clutched Omak. "Graham told me 'bout the ghost bubble long time ago." Omak's heart pounded in his chest. If Mziza and Anava were terrified of the ghost bubble, he didn't want to go near it either. Tan brought his horse closer to the wagon. "It's safe. I've talked to a lot of people who have ridden on transports." Izael touched Anava's shoulder. "What's a ghost bubble?" Anava turned. "Air makes ghost bubble in slums. Folks scared first, but it sits long time so that folks get used to it. Folk live and die long time. Then one day, open door on side a ghost bubble, slum maters send watchers inside. They come back and say bones all on floor. Watchers say they be glass boxes in rooms with folks' souls trapped inside. Watchers cover ghost bubbles with rocks and dirt. Stay homes flee slum, never go back. Slum's lost now." Mziz turned. "My gramps say that ghost bubbles outside slums on hills. He say that earth shake and ghost bubbles roll down hill to gully. Watchers climb in through the holes in the sides." Tan dismounted and climbed into the wagon. He took Anava's hands in his. "Anna, I'm going on the transport. It's safe. I want you to come with me. Please, believe that I've never asked you to do anything that would put you in danger." He kissed her. I'll understand if this is all too much to ask of you, but I want you to come." She clutched his hands. "Don't go. Glass box and ghost bubble steal your soul. I swore allegiance to Lord Morrivan. He needs me to be at the new station with the other guards. The only way that I can get there that fast is if I go on the transport. I've talked to a lot of people who have traveled by transport. It's safe." Isael touched Aniva's shoulders. "I'll go on the transport. I trust Tan." Aniva laid her head on Tan's shoulder. "I don't want to lose ya. If'n you're going on Ghost Bubble, I come with ya." Omek looked from Isael to Tan and back. "If'n you're both going, I go with ya." Dika burst into tears. "Don't go, Mac." Miziza shook her head. "I ain't going on Ghost Bubble." Aniva lifted her head and turned to Miziza. "You take my cart. Tan and I go together. Eff'n we live. Meet us in Tourist. Maps your tourist keep." Miziza hugged Aniva. "I be there. I pray you live." She turned to the wagon driver. "Help us get the cart and trade stock off in a wagon. Dika and I ain't going on Ghost Bubble." The driver called the squad leader. "Mistress Kisa, 2 of the traders refused to board the transport. They want to unload the wagon." The squad leader brought her horse beside the wagon and eyed the occupants. "Let 'em go if they want. They're free agents." She signaled the guards to come unload the wagon. The driver nodded as the guards came to help. Aniva hugged Miziza. "Remember what Heron say. Don't go by road. Go around the way we came. I pray that you get there safe." Miziza nodded. "We pray you stay safe." She sent a glance over her shoulder at the transport and shuddered. Dika hugged Omek. "I remember you long time." She turned and ran to Miziza, who embraced her as she sobbed. I don't think I've seen or remember. It might be remember, because it's been a while. But I think this is the first time that I've seen work from you that has heavy, like a dialectic in the dialogue. Also, I like the kind of culture shock that it shows, or the superstition that it shows in how they approach the ghost bubble versus how other people obviously approach the ghost bubble, it being a transport, and what they're willing to show, it being haunted versus not haunted. Very nice. Also, great tension. Also, I would say there are a lot of names in that, so it feels pretty decently chunked into something larger because of the number of characters in that, which means they'd have to be introduced at an earlier portion in a story so that you can kind of keep together how many there really are. The next story is by Allison Miller. It was another day in the isolated cabin and another plate of beans. Unwilling to look at them a moment longer, she cast her gaze out the window, focusing on the sunset. It was the same as it had been before, and would be the same tomorrow. The same unmoving black birds lined the sky, and the sun still rested in the corner, turning the murky beans over in her bowl. She pushed them away from her in disgust. She advanced, looking out at the grain on the field, painted to look at it like it was moving in the wind, and it was frozen in time, never to move again. She was the only thing in the world that could move. She had no idea how the beans ended up in the cupboards every morning, but there they were. She didn't wake to a rooster, but the bright lights from the outside world cast down on her so that everyone could see all the detail admired from a distance. There was no water, only beans, only voices from the outside, and only the never-ending darkness growing in the corner. She had no idea when she became sentient, but she cursed it every second. She thought that she'd been cursed here, pissed off some witch, and they sent her here. However, her memories were here. She had her mother, father, and sister. Mother died long ago. Father disappeared, and sister was trapped in another cabin. On occasion, they would catch sight of each other and stare with hate. Before the sister tried to leave, Barbara could leave the cabin, could have more than gray beans. There was a delusion of the smell of hay, rain, and sunshine. However, when Kara left, all she smelled was the oil and canvas. "What is this place called?" the voice asked everyone every day. "Little Girl Hides," was the answer. Then a great face would lean in too far, and the alarm would sound, sending Kara to her hiding spot. But Barbara would stare back, locking eyes with the giants of the world. There was no chance of it happening today. Today was Sunday. Sunday was noted by the bread left on a plate next to the beans. She always ate the bread, On occasion, holidays and peak hours, she'd get minestrone or clam chowder. The whistling came with a flash of light over the world. Oh no, he was going to get too close. The velvet rope was there for his protection. Footsteps sounded, telling her he backed away. The lights turned on, and he was up close, his brown eyes nearly on her, nose mere inches from her window. "Boo," she said. The large giant tumbled back, screaming "fuck" again and again. The museum had gone through a lot of security guards because of her and her sister. She hadn't heard of her sister's voice in 18 years. When she wanted to talk, she sent a message. It would appear on the chalkboard near the window. "Good one, sis." Barbara cast her eyes to the corner where the growing darkness was. It always retreated any time she spooked one of the giants. The door clicked, and she was let outside. She and her sister walked out into the hard, gooey ground and readied themselves for moving around and spooking the giant, moving just enough to make them do a double take and move away easily. Not one existed in the other world that were only fruit, too big to be anything other than their portrait. Only the small ones had life, and they didn't move unless no one was looking. This gives me Night at the Museum vibes, which, I mean, might be a cop-out because, of course, it's in a museum and, like, what else am I gonna think of? But, like, the things in the museum looking when nobody else is looking, or people in other cabins. You know, it could be. Little haunted items in the museum. And then messing with the night guards. Of course, they don't stick around. Very fun, Allison. The next story is by J.R. Trass, who I think this is your first time submitting, so welcome. I do recognize your name from the comments, though, so welcome. It is titled Flesh Canvas, an ekphrastic story inspired by Lamar Dodd's painting Self-Portrait, 1936. I've eaten something rotten, I say, and I moan over my latest waste of paint. The infantile squiggles squirm and stare back at me from the canvas. As I try to scrub it clean, I begin to feel quite ill. I head toward the window, glass slick with twilight dew and smeared oil fingerprints. Mid-step, a gurgle. Sounds like someone's draining a swamp. The bile rises, coats my tongue, and sears the roof of my mouth. The taste reminds me of the time I mistook a flask of turpentine for liquor. I slip to my knees, floundering and flailing. Something scrapes up along the ridges of my esophagus, grabs hold of my tongue, pulls and grapples. It grinds the inner edges of my teeth, and my jaw is levered open. My insides want out. I slide along the floor, palms and knees, stirring the dirt, dust, and paint. Then a hand spears from between my lips, and slick fingers wriggle before my eyes. A padded shoulder passes, then a head of weedy hair, a belt buckle, a pair of wing-tipped shoes. I fuse myself with the darkest furthest corner. The figure stands over me, shouldering the ember light. My lips quiver as I stare at the pleated pant legs. "Shall I paint you, sir?" he says. "What the hell are you?" I growl, my voice churning up from the ground meat innards, steam rising from the corner of his grin. He adjusts his necktie. I recognize him. When I was 7, he guided my hand through every loop and twist of cursive, and he gave me my first brushes, telling me, "If you can write your name, Mr. Dodd, you can draw." "Mr. Bristles?" I ask. "No, you imbecile. I've just hoisted myself out of your intestines for a social visit, and you think that I'm your second-grade teacher?" He leans in and murmurs, "But, seeing how you drown him in an acid vat regularly, I've come to know him well. I actually do a fair impression." Throwing his head back, he emits a string of tortured screams. Calm again, he tells me, "I'm really here on business." He strikes a match off of his pillared cheek and takes a puff from my pipe. Sulphurous bubbles pop between the floorboards, pumping forth a murky filth as brown as attic shadows. The slime hisses and builds and hardens into an easel. He spreads its veins, arms, and stretches his canvas, which pulsates and emits a moist warmth. I find my footing and shuffle over. My fingers trace its delicate folds. I detect a whiff of honey perfume. He looks at me. One of his eyes rolls away from the other. Smooth as the flesh of a young woman's wrist, wouldn't you say? I caress the canvas. It shivers at my touch, and I mutter, I'm sure that I've eaten something rotten, I ask him. Who are you? I have many names, Dottie. My stomach acid drips from the tip of his nose, pattering on his black shoes, sizzling. Know that I am here to give you what the teacher never could. Know that I am here to give you what your teacher never could. He offers me his pew sand. In it is my pipe. I snatch it away from him and wedge it firmly between my lips. As my hand brushes his, some of him comes off with it, a spongy paste, smelling like the sun-browned onion. The moonless dark sets in, he says. Now strike a pose and hold it. I can't disobey. Left arm hooks with a brush in hand, right arm dangling. Head cocked, he dips his fingers in the colors of my palette. I'm really sure that I've eaten something rotten, he sighs. Self-doubt. You've dined on it for decades. He whips and rips at the canvas, drawing blood. Smells like turpentine. But when I blink again, he finishes his composition. He whistles. Wonderful. Not often do I get such a handsome and compliant subject. I cough up a shoelace. It sits in my palm like a snotty eel. You should go, I say. Go, he says. Dottie, this is the start of a drawn-out partnership. He rolls up the flesh canvas, offered it to me. It feels like a webbing between fingers. I shield my lips with chapped knuckles, and he watches the dust settle all night. The sun creeps inside through the windows, smeared in oils and dew. I don't see him anymore, but the devil didn't leave the way that he came, because he never left. I know that he's around, in my paint and my canvas, which forever feels like they were peeled from the living. I smell him in the turpentine, and I fill museums with his work. Oh my gosh, I really like this, especially, I mean, this could be a short story on its own, for sure. I don't want to act like it's not complete on its own, but it could also be an epilogue or a prologue, depending on the kind of story that you would want to tell. It reminds me of Roald Dahl and Layers of Fear, because the first Layers of Fear game is about an artist. I don't know if I want to spoil more about that game, just in case I end up playing it on stream. But it does make me think of that. And I don't know if you are familiar with Roald Dahl. He is the author of James and the Giant Peach and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and he has a short story collection called Twisted Tales. And it specifically reminds me of his style, which stories of the devil, with the devil, stuff like this, very interesting, very creepy, great, and a great introduction to the devil and the devil haunting this guy. The next story is by M.K. McKeever. Neither of them was sure how they got to the car fixed in time, which added credence to Harriet's poltergeist theory, but they got her ready to go. She was waiting outside when the door to a car flung open and a slim man in a suit got into the back. Ah, Taylor Harlow, she asked, checking the picture of her rider. Yeah, just drive, Taylor ordered quickly. Okay, so where are we wanting to go again? Harriet asked awkwardly, her eyes darting black and realizing that they were being tailed. Who is that? Just go, Taylor shouted. I'll give you directions. For the next 15 minutes, Taylor shouted directions to Harriet as they tried to evade the black car. Suddenly, in the middle of the chase, a bullet whizzed through the window, Harriet just ducking in the nick of time. Okay, I know what this may look like, Taylor began. Who are you? Harriet asked bluntly. Why are they chasing us? Taylor seemed shocked by her reaction. Whoa, you are surprisingly calm right now. That's because this isn't my first rodeo, Harriet explained, piecing it together. So who are you with? Templar Knights, Illuminati? You wouldn't happen to be a fairy, would you? Maybe. She could work with that. If he didn't drag her into their realm, then all bets would be off. No, Taylor shouted, sounding offended. Okay, I'm with the Illuminati. They're actually not with anyone. They're just ticked that I just stole from them. He glanced back. I wasn't expecting the firearms, though. What? Harriet balked, confused. Fighting a war with every secret society takes a lot of money, all right? Taylor snapped. It's depleted our funds over a couple 100 years, and we've had to resort to petty theft, and sometimes not so petty. You've got to be kidding me, Harriet groaned. Who calls an Uber to flee a robbery? Well, clearly I wasn't expecting this, Taylor snapped. Just lose them already. Okay, Harriet agreed reluctantly, pulling an illegal U-turn. But I better get a huge tip for this. The chase went on for several blocks. Harriet would zig, the other car would zag. Harriet would go over the speed limit, and so would the other car. It was surprising that neither of them got pulled over by the cops. What exactly did you steal from them? Harriet demanded, turning another corner into a more isolated part of the city. Some little animal figurines, Taylor answered, looking back. I didn't think that she'd actually get this mad. Yes, people tend to get mad when you rob them, Harriet exclaimed. This sass is going to affect your tip, Taylor warned. After a beat, he added, I think that we might have actually lost them. Okay, Harriet breathed, relieved. So, where to now? 15 minutes later, Harriet pulled up to the local motel of all places, putting it in park. Thanks, kid, Taylor said, beginning to get out of the car. Hey, Harriet called out. Aren't you forgetting something? Just wait here a minute, okay? Taylor said. I'll get you money. Harriet stuck her upper body out of the car window. And I'm not accepting stolen jewelry or figurines or whatever. Leaning back into the car, she gripped the wheel with her hands and ungripped it several times, exhaling. Sometimes she hated it when her parents were right. A few minutes later, Taylor hadn't come back. Harriet peered in the direction he went anxiously, a creeping feeling up her spine. She needed to get out of here. Harriet hit the gas only for the engine to sputter and spit and do everything but start. Not now, please, Harriet pleaded before getting harsh. Look, unless you want some company haunting this car, you need to let me drive away. Just then there was a knock on the door. Harriet whirled around to see the man with gray-black hair knocking on the window. Sorry about that, he said in a Scottish accent. I'm Taylor's supervisor. Can you step out of the car for a moment? Harriet just stared back at him, frozen in place. Now you won't be harmed, I promise, Taylor's superior said. We just need to discuss payment for the ride. Yeah, right, Harriet thought. If she got out of the car, she either was going to wind up dead, locked up in a secret headquarters, or forcefully recruited, possibly some combination of the three. Suddenly, the lock to the car was forced down. The sedan took off. Only Harriet hadn't started it. In fact, she hadn't even turned the car on. What? Harriet balked. This was new, even for her. The car turned on. Block. The car turned on. Block. Then another. Harriet turned back to see a black sedan following them. Here they went again. I'm not sure what the plan is, but you might want to go faster. As if on cue, the car sped up, and Harriet having to stop herself from going forward. Okay. Oh, okay. The Uber driver becomes the Uber drive-ed. I mean, that was fun. Also, somebody robbing the Illuminati robbing somebody. What a terrible situation to be in, let's be real. Is not just a robbery, but the Illuma-robby. When you hit the hard times, you get hit by the Illuma-robby. The next story is by Vaughan Farrar. That's another new name. Welcome. This is titled The Mobster and the Mirror. A light knocking rapped upon the office door. You in there, boss? Asked a nasally voice. When am I not? I replied. A scrawny man in a cheap suit and thin tie opened the door to step through. Without looking up from the paperwork on my desk, I could already tell by the annoying voice that it was Little Lips Louie. Sorry to disturb you, boss, but we brought you back a little prissy from the old bird's place. Figured it might be something that you could spoil your wife with. Or your mistress, he said, snapping his fingers with a smug grin. A couple of boys in pinstripes then wheeled in something twice Louis's size, veiled in a dusty old cloth. I looked up at Louis with a slight scowl and asked, What do you mean you brought me back a little pressy? That old bird is the stepmother of my mistress. Did you steal something from that sick old lady I asked you to take care of? His eyes widened as an apple in his neck lifted and dropped with a gulp. Well, when you said take care of her, he continued with a slight crack in his voice, I think there might have been some miscommunication on my part. Oh, for God's sake, Louis, I sighed, burying my face into my palms of my hands. Go on. Get out of here. I don't want to see your face for a while. And what about the Prezi? He asked. Leave it. I guess it's going to my wife, I growled. Okie dokie. He gulped again before rushing out and slamming the door. After rolling my eyes to the back of my head, I got up from my desk and unveiled this Prezi. Turned out to be a standing mirror, somewhat ornate with unique markings etched into the oval frame. Didn't look like nothing too special, but when I turned to get back to work, I could have sworn that I saw something in the reflection out of the corner of my eye. I dismissed it as a trick of light. The missus will like it, I thought. Lucky for Louie, it turns out she loved it. So much, in fact, that she put it in our bedroom that night. I guess he gets to wear his skin for another day. Staring at her own reflection, as if enamored by her own gaze, my wife asked, Where did you get such a lovely antique? As tempting as it was, I figured it better not to wisecrack by stating our wedding date. I acquired it from work, I said, with a little more hesitation than I'd liked. One of the boys brought it in. Less I know, the better. How sweet, she scoffed and soughed. Sounded like she bought it and that was good enough for me. She spent the rest of the evening staring at the mirror, trying to figure out the markings from what I could gather of her mutterance. Even as great as a linguist as she was, she couldn't figure 'em out. When it came time to snooze, I had practically dragged her by the arm to the pillow. It was the most interaction that we'd had in bed in months. Seemed almost a formality at this point, but we said our good nights and turned away from each other and did our best to sleep in each other's company. As I was closing my eyes and drifting off, the mirror was just in a view of the foot of our bed. I could swear that I saw something move out of the corner of my eye again. I figured that it was nothing, so I closed my eyes and tried to ignore it for 8 hours. 2 of those hours passed by, and I awoke to a strange whispering in my ears. Damn it, woman, I groaned. Get back to your beauty sleep. The whispering continued, but I couldn't quite make out what she was saying. Reluctantly, I sat up so that I could listen to whatever nonsense she was spouting. Funny enough, she was snoring her head off. I looked around the room to see if some ballsy git had broken in to whisper sweet nothings to me, but there was nobody to be seen. There was just that damned mirror and its glowing lights. Wait a second, I thought. I don't remember the mirror having glowing lights. Not wanting to wake my wife, I crept out of bed toward the mirror to see if I could at least turn it off. The foreign markings etched into the frame were glowing a ghostly blue, but despite all of the efforts, I couldn't find a switch or even a cord to unplug. I looked for a battery hatch on the back, but there was none to be found. Coming back to the front, my lungs nearly leapt out of my throat when I saw my reflection. Throwing my hands to my mouth, I gasped and held back of fright to not wake the missus. Staring back at me was a twisted and malformed version of myself. A black ink looked to be seeping out of my eyes. Beneath my hands was a menacing grin of sharpened teeth. Touching my eyes, there didn't seem to be any ink to wipe away. Nor was there any sort of residue on my fingers. I figured that I'd reach out to try to wipe away the schmutz, thinking that it was on the mirror. When I touched my fingertips to the silvery surface, however, I felt a cold sensation flow through me. I recoiled, gasping once more, and decided then and there that the mirror was off to the scrapyard in the morning. As I turned to retire to bed, I noticed my reflection remained staring back at me as if someone was standing in the window. I also couldn't help but notice the void of white where the walls of my house should have been, behind the mirror and outside of its reflected view. I must have drunk one too many scotches, I thought. Heading back to my pillow, the sight of my bedroom became askew, as if there was an optical illusion and I had just stepped out of the focal point. I'd never had nightmares like this before. I slapped myself in the face, but I couldn't wake up. With the pain searing in my reddening cheeks, I was beginning to think that I wasn't asleep anymore. The incoherent whispering turned to my ears, and it was coming from the mirror. I walked back up to it, and the freakish, mutated version of myself looked to be laughing in silence as it stared at me. "What do you want?" I asked aloud. The figure remained silent, only cocking its head in response. It then looked at my wife, before turning back to me with an even wider grin of dagged teeth. I didn't know what it wanted with her, but she's my wife, not its play toy. I felt the need to yell, "Don't you dare!" as I punched the mirror in frustration. The silver glass cracked, and in turn, an identical fissure broke through the optical illusion that I found myself in. It was as if the light from the other side had obscured by it. With eyes wide and the wrinkles atop my forehead thoroughly creased, I looked back at the figure waggling its finger at me, and I was a child throwing a tantrum. Finally, it whispered something to me in plain English. "Don't worry, I'll take care of her." Oh no, bro, you got sucked into the mirror. Though it's like, so your mama, it could be. He said it was his mistress's mother that he sent them to take care of. So this could be her family who had been taking care of mama all of this time. And well, when you killed the mama, it just came for you, though. Technically, I mean, he a mobster, so he not exactly a good guy. But also, he didn't actually mean for bad things to happen to the old lady. I mean, R.I.P. R.I.P. boss man. The next story is by Egao Chan. Don't look. Alex could not remember what he was thinking. John, Mae, and Eric needed a camera guy because their usual guy couldn't make it. They wouldn't go somewhere too scary, they said. Not too scary for them. Even the first floor of this abandoned office/school building gave Alex the creeps. All the windows were dirty, and most were broken. Shredded documents, papers, pens, and even chairs scattered all over. Years of neglect built up quite a bit of dust and dirt everywhere. Relax. It's just an empty building. There's nothing here. John shook his head at Alex. Just a test drive for new content. We picked this place for a reason, eh? Not too creepy, and there's no story behind anything. What if you missed something? What if a serial killer is hiding in there? Alex tried his best not to tremble. It was fortunate that he could talk in this video. Otherwise, he would be scared shitless and had no way to express it. Dude, you're really scared, huh? Eric chuckled. It's fine, okay? Just stay close. Yeah, I feel like you're gonna be a nice guest. You should come with us next time. Mae giggled. The algorithm loves hot girls and scared guys. Alex wanted to rebuke with, "Oh yeah? I don't see any hot girls around." But he decided against it. "All right, let's check out the bathrooms," Eric chuckled. "You know what they say." "Dude," Alex moaned. "What the fuck?" "It's all right. 3 of us can brave through anything." John laughed along and gave Eric a smack on his shoulder. The 2 idiots dragged Alex into the bathroom with them. Mae sighed and followed. The men's bathroom was dirty and foul as Alex expected. The doors were broken, the toilets were covered in dark tar-like substance, the walls had been spray-painted with unintelligible words, symbols, and profanities. "Holy shit," John and Eric giggled as they waved their flashlights around. "Totally awesome, like a video game." "Yeah, but what's gonna be the name? 1 week in a fucking office?" Alex's lips and sound cords quivered, barely pulling off the dis. "Or the School of the Not Alive," Eric thought for a while and then raised his fingers. "Awesome!" John clapped and gave Eric a high five. Spots of lights flashed from the broken mirrors when the flashlights shone on them. The reflections of John, Eric, and Alex were distorted and scattered all over them. Alex backed out of the door. The foul smell was one thing. The distinctly chilly air was another. Mae was at the door with him, grimacing as well. "Boys, how can they last so long in there?" Mae shook her head. Maybe it's the alcoholic phase in college, or the weed." Alex shrugged. "Huh? What are you talking about?" John tilted his head at Alex. "Nothing." Alex shrugged. The women's bathroom smelled much better, though the graffiti was just as foul and profane. Mae still would not go in, complaining about how foul the smell was. John and Eric went in, looked around, and exclaimed, trying their best to be funny and edgy for the video. "Hello? There any lady ghost in here?" Eric put his palm around his mouth into a horn. "Come out. We just want to chat. Or a date. Can you bring a friend?" John raised his voice again. Both idiots laughed and high-fived each other before shoving their faces at the camera. "All right, let's go upstairs." Footsteps came from the ceiling, with the sounds of marbles bouncing off the ground. Both of the idiots jumped at the same time. Alex almost dropped the camera. A sudden chilliness grabbed his heart and lungs. He almost lost control of his legs and even his bladder. "We need to leave." Mae's face was pale and even a little gray as she coughed and even retched. "I don't feel so good. Please. We should leave." Alex nodded at Mae, then screamed at John and Eric, who were caught up in a mixed emotions of excitement, worry, and fear. He knew these two too well. If no one knocked some sense into them, they would really go and check it out. "We must go!" He screamed again, then bolted toward the direction from which they came. Screw the video. Maybe it was the wind, maybe he was hearing things, or maybe there were really children giggling, men and women screaming inside of the walls and following him. His vision were becoming blurry. His sweat was pouring. Though he was running at full speed and barely catching his breath, his body was cold. "Wait up!" Eric and John had no choice but to follow. They made it back into the car, and Alex took a look back at the building and almost dropped the camera under his seat. On the second, third, and fourth floor of the building, countless human-shaped shadows stood behind the windows and the balconies, staring at him. The car shot out to the parking lot. Only when Alex picked the camera up did he notice the sticker at the bottom with the name Mae. For a moment, it was as if he forgot how to breathe. "Call Mae," he muttered to Eric and John. "What?" John was confused. "What happened, man? Just call her!" Alex almost barked. All right. Eric raised his hand as he dialed Mae's number and put her on speaker. An older woman answered the phone. From the sound of it, she had been crying. "Who is this?" "Hey, Mae," Eric asked. "Are you all right?" The older woman sniffled. Sorry, this is her aunt." "Hello? Miss Aunt? Can I talk to Mae?" "I'm sorry, this is really not a good time." Mae's aunt sniffled again. She's still in Oregon. We're waiting for the doctor." A door opened in the background, followed by hurried footsteps. Words exchanged. Eric hung up when people started crying. Are you telling me that her ghost was possibly there with them and warning them about what was going to go down? Bro, anything for the views. Though, Eric and John are not going to make it. They got to, you got to get them, you got to get them spooks that are in the windows. I hope Alex, the cameraman, got those spooks, okay? That is where it is all at. The next story is by Bob Franks. "You're punks!" Brady shouted as he slammed on the door. "You hooligans! I know that you stole my mail!" He slammed his fist against the door again. No response. How typical of mail thieves. "I know you mongrels are in there!" A few neighbors started to shout for him to keep it down. He waved her off. Their mortal concerns were unimportant next to the concerns of his mail. Then he kicked the door and watched as it cricked open. Sweat formed on his forehead. Was this a trick, a goof, a gag to see him fall? Were these agents of the Freemasons? Only one way to know. Slowly, he pushed it all the way back. The path was clear before him. Brady stared blankly for a few moments, flabbergasted by sheer stupidity of those people. After a moment, he felt his smile form. "What an arrogant mongrel!" He half laughed. He strode in as a king seizing new land. After he was done with this, he would march straight to the party and enjoy the all-you-can-eat buffet. Hopefully, this time they would serve tropical punch. "There you are." He smiled at the little folder organizer in the kitchen, then rushed to open it quickly, revealing all of the letters, notes, and bills. Within moments, it was all dumped onto the ground, the bin tossed aside. The holder slammed right next to the sink door, opening it ever so slightly. No, 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 he repeated as he searched through every last letter. He couldn't have. Did they go for it? Foolish worms. They will know pain everlasting. My brothers will. What's that? A small little glittering urn revealed itself, tucked away next to the sink pipe. Brady pulled it free and held it up. It was a small thing, decorated in gold and black, with strange symbols carved along it. A sticky note on the top of it read, "Do not open." He smirked. What could be so bad? His words were cut off as an invisible force smashed him into the fridge. His vision blurred for a second while attempting to rise. Only once it cleared did he see the shadow. Time slowed to a crawl as the thing towered over him. It was a huge, covered in transparent fur, while its face was bleached skull. Instead of eyes, small eldritch flames glared down at him. It stood on its hind legs and roared. The rumblings were enough to shake the apartment. "Bear! A bear!" Brady shouted, attempting to scurry back. The thing crashed down and snarled, swiping at him. Each attempt sent forth a gust of wind, blowing him against the fridge. The thing drew closer, phasing through the kitchen's island, leaving behind ectoplasm. "Ghost bear!" Brady screamed as he glanced quickly at the urn. Inside the lid was another note. "In case of bear, use salmon. Bottom freezer." Ghost Bear roared, sending waves of ectoplasm flying across his face. Brady screamed as he stumbled closer. Reaching behind him, he tried to free the freezer. The thing was upon him as he finally moved aside, nearly ripped it open, and threw the frozen salmon its way. The bear stared at it curiously, pawed at the fish, and then stared at it. Then started to lay down and devour it. The ice melted away with each bite. Brady rushed for the door, then slammed it shut. Two figures stood behind him, both nonplussed, each wincing at the sight of ectoplasm dropping off him. "Who's this guy?" the tallest of the two asked, pointing at him. "No idea," the other one shrugged. Brady started to mouth the words while pointing at the door. "Bear." They both stared at him for a long moment before the tall one sighed. "I thought we paid Kelly to keep the drunks out of our apartment. Guess she's on break." The door across opened up. Out stepped little Grady, his cane tapping for a while. "Ah, Caleb." "Thomas. Did you by chance get my mail? I think they mixed it up again." "Oh yeah, we did." Thomas stepped up, handing over the invitation. "By the way, we're not Freemasons. That is a fictitious lie." "Okay?" He stared at them, then read the invitation. "Oh, this isn't mine. It belongs to that Brady fellow. I get his mail sometimes, too. Have a good night, fellas." He retreated inside his apartment as Caleb chuckled. "And they say I can't read." "Oh, shut up." Thomas started, ripping the invitation apart. Brady watched as the paper was torn asunder. "My invitation. Bear invitation. Bear!" Caleb rolled his eyes, then gently picked up Brady by the shoulders, wincing as he did. Then pulled him aside before walking in. A long sigh was followed by a shout. "Fluffy got out of his urn again." "Again? That's like the third time this week." "Got to the salmon, too." Brady watched as the two walked in and locked the door. He stared for a long minute as he slowly approached, his mouth finally forming the words. My mail. My tropical bun. Bear." Not only does this deserve a spot on the Sci-Fi Network because, bear ghosts, okay? Go with me here. But also, brilliant use of previous prompts in the haunting as well. Also, I love Ghost Bear, okay? And you got the frozen salmon in the bottom drawer of the ghost. Two Illuminatis. Yeah, I am impressed. But also, you left the bear. The next story is by Mike, aka Michael When in Trouble. "Dr. Summerfield, over here." The party's assistant archaeologist, Dr. Callie Brooks, beckoned me to a spot among the crowd of curious onlookers. "Sir, it's simply amazing. It doesn't make sense." The dig, thankfully, in a shady spot, gives a slight but welcome respite from the unrelenting heat and humidity. Unbearable in the day, sufferable, but just barely in the night. What is it, Dr. Brooks? I felt myself getting irritated by the interruption. Not only was the heat a constant annoyance, but Dr. Brooks seemed to not be able to function without my direct say-so. We found something of a surprise in the dig, sir. No one has touched it. I thought it best to let you have the honor of retrieving it from the dig. Sweat beaded across my forehead and ran down my neck in streams. Densely packed El Salvadorian jungle kept any breeze away. If stifling was human, it would be a felon in prison. The heat at noon was like a person standing beside you, one that you didn't like. Annoyed at the ineptitude of Dr. Brooks and her simpleton state of mind, I climbed down inside of the dig. Nothing of the miraculous variety jumped out. There were no glorious chains of relics, no heretofore unknown jewels of the past, not even a whisper of a treasure. What, Dr. Brooks, pray tell, am I supposed to be looking for? Under the burlap, sir. We covered it up. All I could do was shake my head. Whatever it is, it's been buried for at least 2,000 years. You can't let the damned thing breathe. My head was a chorus of drums. The steady beating of my temples was very familiar. Dehydration was a constant concern, but this beating was of a different nature. It wasn't the typical drink of water and it'll go away headache. It was something much worse. This feeling, dread, anticipation. The closer to the burlap I stepped, the more intrusive the feeling became. Lifting the burlap, I saw nothing of note except for an obsidian knife, pristine though it was. Obsidian knives were found all over the ancient world, and there were thousands of examples. Dr. Brooks, do you mean to tell me that you disturbed me because of a knife? Dr. Brooks, to her limited credit, acknowledged the same fact. No, sir. I know that the knife itself isn't special. It's the knife's condition, not a speck of dirt, dust, or wear on it. Indeed, the knife was a perfect example of Mayan creation, lay unblemished after more than 2 millennia underground. The chorus of sounds pounding in my head deepened. Far away, chants of "Sizin, Sizin, Sizin" grew louder. Screams of torment and great suffering swelled around me, and I wanted to get out of the hole, out of the jungle, and out of this damned country. Yet something pulled me to the knife. A small swirl of wind, no more than a forgotten breeze, carried a whisper of a voice. It sounded smoky, terrifying, yet the draw to come closer was irresistible. Use me. I felt a jolt as powerful as a thunderstorm. Feathers and corn husks, the sun no less oppressive inside the walls of my chamber. Servants surround my bed on their knees, waiting for my command. One, a young woman, stands. Your Great Highness, what shall your pleasures be before the ceremony today? I shook my head. Water. A cupbearer swiftly brought the drink as a prostrated servant rose to dress me in ceremonial attire. Today, a day of celebration would be enjoyed by many, and for many it would be their last celebration. One servant, a young apprentice, carried a box. Within that box, a voice called me. Use me. My carriage awaits outside of my chambers, taking the box. I decide that the boy is no longer a worthy apprentice. Today, you will walk the steps alone. A white mask enveloped him. Knowing his duty today, he says nothing and bows. Reaching the top, the ceremonial table sits at the ready for his familial duties. Captured prisoners from nearby jungle villages line the passages up the stairs. Paintings adorn the walls so that they can witness their fates beforehand. Use me. The voice of the first person in line, my former apprentice, steps forward and accepts his fate on the table. Use me. The older apprentice, who have not displeased me in some way, bind him to the table. To the boy's credit, he makes no sound. Use me! Opening the box, the knife jumps into my hand, vibrating through my body. Use me! And the blades touch. An all-knowing sight takes my hand, and I can see the apprentice's heart inside of his chest. Knowing where to strike, I address the crowd below. O great Citizen, God of death and earthquakes, accept these gifts of blood, that the living may not feel your wrath. Raising the knife, I hear the cheers from the crown far below. Cries of terror from the sacrifices behind. Dr. Summerfield, are you okay? I opened my eyes from the dig team. I opened my eyes to see the dig team, accompanied by insufferable Dr. Brooks beside me. I croak out a weak. What happened? You passed out, sir, fainted. As soon as you picked up the knife, you dropped to the ground. You weren't out more than 10-15 seconds, but it seemed like forever. I heard Dr. Brooks, and my ears were on another voice. Use me. I felt the blade vibrating in my hand. The voice within the blade grew stronger. Use me! As I stood, the center of Brooks' chest illuminated, showing me her heart. I guess I'm getting Team Death vibes here. Yeah, the origin story of the passing around of that obsidian knife. I hope that Mr. Dr. Summerfield knows what he's doing, which I think he does. I think he's pretty much done with Dr. Brooks. Good luck. Good luck with that. Good luck in prison, because that's probably what's going to happen. Not going to lie. You're talking about the oppressive heat feeling like prison. When you stab your cohort here, you're not going to have a metaphorical prison. Good luck, sir. The last story is by R.S. Alessi. Andrew was having a permanently boring evening, perched atop a dryer and sipping a Coke. The laundromat was empty. Most of the machines were open, and the hum of rolling drums was lulling him into a hazy stupor. A bell above the front door jingled, and a girl walked in. She was long and lean, with thick hair pulled back into a ponytail. When she stopped at the dryer beside his, he chuckled. "What?" she asked. I knew whoever grabbed that machine had to be new. He drew his legs up to sit cross-legged on his dryer. She folded her arms over her chest. "Why? Is something wrong with it?" He smirked. "You could say that." "What? Does it munch quarters? Shred sweaters?" "Oh no, way worse than that." He settled more comfortably into his perch. This girl was easy to look at and totally worth dragging out to the story. There were a bunch of burglaries a few years back, someone stealing clothes from dryers. The girl glanced at a black sphere mounted on the ceiling. "With all the security in here?" "That's the thing. At the time, the owner refused to put the cameras in, said that he didn't see how it was his fault. People walked away from the machines and got robbed." "Something changed his mind?" "I'm getting to that." He leaned forward. "There was this girl who lived in the apartment complex across the street, and she'd been robbed 2 times already. One day, while she had her laundry going, she realized that she needed more quarters, and she just put a load into the dryer, so she figured that she had time to run home and grab some quarters before it finished. I guess she got held up because she was in a hurry to get back. She darted across the street without looking, and smack! She was struck dead by a truck." The girl arched an eyebrow. "And the owner put the cameras in because he felt bad?" "Yeah, but this is where the story gets weird. The stealing stopped, except for this one dryer that gets hit any time it's left unattended. Clothes go in, security cameras show no one's touching it, and nothing's in it when it's done. Weird still, the same dryer the girl was running to check on when she died. It's the same dryer that your clothes are in." He grinned. "Right now." It was a good story, and he'd told it as well as any of the regulars. "So that's it?" she asked, crossing her arms behind her neck. "A haunted dryer?" "Yeah, and if you like your clothes, you won't use it again." The dryer buzzed. They exchanged looks. "Let's see if the ghost dryer ate my clothes, huh?" she said with a smile of her own. He hopped off his dryer and leaned beside her to peek in. The door swung open, revealing a load of dry clothes. "Cute story," she said, and stuffed the clothes into her denim laundry bag. "Maybe I'll see you next week." Andrew smiled. "Same time, same place." "What the hell? Someone stole my clothes!" Andrew's head snapped up. He'd nodded off again. A big bodybuilder was standing in front of the empty dryer beside his. "Dude, I had a whole conversation with this girl who took your laundry. I had no idea it wasn't hers." "God damn it." The guy slammed his fists into the top of the offending dryer and left behind a dent. Those were all of my gym clothes. Will you make a statement if I report it? Sure, man. The cop who showed up glared irritably when Andrew gave his description of the thief. This is some kind of joke, right? What do you mean? The cop nodded at the community bulletin board where the patrons could post flyers. Junk for sale, babysitting services, and roommate offers. In the top corner was a photo of some fake flowers and ribbons pinned around it. Andrew walked over and checked it out. Hey, that's her. That's the girl who stole the clothes. I don't think so, the cop said. That's the girl who got hit by a car 3 years ago. Oh my goodness, there was a twist, and then there was a twist. Where he was... Ruth. This was so nicely organized. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it, but just like... I bought in that it was going to be a BS story of just folklore, local folklore, and that's it. And then it wasn't. Your stories are always so fun because you do like the mundane and the magical, and it could go either way. I feel like a haunted dryer is also so you. Because the way that you do things is also with the domestic. Well, like with how your other personal projects are and the other sub-stories, the timeshare, I still think about the timeshare one. or the ones with John. They're just fun, and you got me. And also the lead up to the ending here. Beautiful, brilliant. So, them's be all of the stories this month, you guys. Thank you so much for submitting, to everybody included, everybody that didn't quite make it for one reason or another. Good luck next week. Welcome to all of the new names that have showed up. I always love reading what you guys do. Let me know what your favorite story was in the comments down below. I know it's always difficult. Everybody is so different, and that's what I love about LMIAY is the brilliance, the different kinds of stories that you all bring, the different types of creativity that is brought, the humor, the serious. You guys always bring it. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. Happy Monday. Happy October, spook month, and don't die. Because you guys all deserve it, I just want to say thank you to every member of the channel. David B., Just a Raccoon, Simon Taylor, Rainer Chan, Alta Monk, Off Fidel, Mercy Cunningham, Mike, Rayleigh's Movies, Thaumaturgist, and Spoopy Samuel. You guys help pay for what I do here, keeping what I do here for free. And if anybody else would like to become a member, link down near the description below. Thank you. I appreciate you all just for being a part of hanging out. Thank you.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out?
The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross.
Is he in trouble?
We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him.
Cross isn't a killer. For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die. Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Why? Did you do that? To the left, plain black letters read along the wall. You walked in the corridor. Once that ends, you chose the dark is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me. Where the hell am I? You're dead, Josephine. Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?